Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. Guys, welcome back. I know it's been a hot minute since I've done an MLB video since last Friday, so it's been like 5 days, a little bit longer than I originally expected. I talked about it briefly in my NBA video yesterday, just have had a little bit of a rough run out of it at the pizza shop. So unfortunately, no videos yesterday, no videos on Monday, but we are back, and I already talked about it yesterday in my NBA video. We're gonna make up the difference, and we're gonna do a video on Saturday. I announced last week. We won't be doing MLB Player Prop videos on Saturdays until the end of the NBA playoffs, or towards the end of the NBA playoffs. To make up, though, for lost time, I will do an extra video this week on Saturday to make up for some of the misses earlier in the week. And also, I've got 7, yes, you heard that right, 7 MLB player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's video. So making up for lost time, found a lot of player props that I like. We have obviously gotten off to a really cold start to the MLB season, but I feel it. I can feel it now. We've had some weeks under our belt now. We've got some games under our belt. I'm feeling pretty good about today's slate, and I don't want to jinx it, but I feel pretty confident. Today's the day we start turning things around here. So let's not waste any more time, guys. Let's dive right into today's picks. Got a lot of picks to go ahead and share with you. All right, guys, jumping right into the outlier screen. Our first player prop in today's slate comes from the Marlins-Mets game, 1:10 p.m. first pitch. We're going Juan Soto of the New York Mets over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're getting this one for -120 over on BetMGM. As always, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. And look, the data is fantastic across the board, looking at last year's numbers, this year's numbers. The good thing, guys, is that we're now at the point for most of these players, not every player, for the majority of these players, where most of them have played like at least 10 games this year. Juan Soto's played 11 games this season for the Mets already. So we're starting to get to that point where we're getting some good data, some good reference points from this year to go off of it. We don't have to just rely on outdated data from the previous season. And looking at the last 10 games for Juan Soto, really solid numbers. 9 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, including 6 consecutive games. He's averaging 2.5 hits, runs, RBIs over his last 10 games. Look at the overall numbers this year. He's only played 1 more game than the 10-game data suggests. 9 out of 11, 82% hit rate this year, averaging 2.36 hits, runs, RBIs per game overall this season. Look at the head-to-head numbers. 7 of his last 8 matchups with the Miami Marlins, he's cashed the over. That's an 88% hit rate, averaging 3.13 hits, runs, RBIs per game over those last 8 matchups with Miami. And he's played them plenty this year. He's already played them 5 times this season. He's cashed the over in 4 of those 5 matchups this year. This will be their 6th game played already this season tonight. So pretty good sample size, even just for this year, for Juan Soto against Miami. Now, we don't have any head-to-head matchup stats for Juan Soto versus Max Meyer, the Marlins pitcher, but we do have some matchup stats to go off of here. Juan Soto, 288 batting average overall last year versus right-handed pitchers, batted 293 with a 182.1 WRC+. So he hit definitely better off of right-handed pitchers. We still don't have 2025 numbers here for Juan Soto. It's going to be a little bit, probably another couple weeks until we get the 2025 data for the individual players. So we are still going off the numbers from last year for some of these categories. Max Meyer last year, 568 ERA, 276 batting average allowed. Versus left-handed batters, you do see his ERA increase. However, the other numbers do decrease, but they're minor decreases. Like his batting average allowed, for example, goes from 276 to 268. 268 is still pretty high. So even though it's decreased from his overall numbers, still pretty solid for us. His home runs per 9 dropped from 2.2 2.1, very minor decrease. His WOBA goes from 381 to 379. Again, these are all minor decreases. Overall, it's still a very good matchup here for Juan Soto against Miami once again. Now, looking at Juan Soto versus Max Meyer's pitch arsenal. Now, Juan Soto does typically struggle a little bit with his most used pitch, the slider, but it's still not bad. Juan Soto is one of the best players in Major League Baseball. 327 WOBA is not terrible. He does have a higher strikeout rate, 21.5%, but his second most utilized pitch, the fastball, just a 13.2% strikeout percentage and a 505 WOBA against the fastball. And then further down the line you go, it's not bad. The only pitch, and obviously it is the pitch he uses the most, 40.7%, But again, 327 WNBA, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's still pretty solid numbers. He does struggle with it a little bit more than any other pitch, but I still think overall it's a solid matchup, especially for minus 120 odds. And come on, it's Juan Soto we're talking about here. All right, guys, our second player prop in today's slate comes from the Dodgers-Nationals game, 4:05 p.m. first pitch. We're going Jake Irvin of the Washington Nationals over 5.5 hits allowed. Now, he's actually pitched 2 games already this season. He's cashed the over in both games this year, and he's averaging 7 hits per game allowed this season. And he's had a pretty much of a devil's row in terms of who he's had to pitch against to start the year. He had the Phillies, a top 10 hitting team. He had the Diamondbacks, a top 10 hitting team. And now he gets the Los Angeles Dodgers, another one of the best hitting teams in Major League Baseball. They basically have an all-star lineup for their lineup. Look at the head-to-head data here dating back to last season. The last time they played back on April 24th of last year, he had 12 hits allowed and was an 11-2 win for the Dodgers. Now, the previous outing before that, about a week earlier on April 17th, 2024, he had just 4 hits allowed, and it was a pretty good win for Washington. So, we have an instance where he got creamed by the Dodgers, and an instance where he pitched okay and actually got the win against the Dodgers. Looking down below at the insights provided by Outlier. Shout out to Outlier, by the way, best sports betting tool on the market. We do offer a link down below in the description that gives you guys a 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. All the data, everything you see in this video is brought to you by Outlier. And guys, you're going to want to have a proper sports betting tool by your side if you want to make money sports betting. So definitely check out Outlier. Again, link down below in the description, 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. But look at the insights provided by Outlier. Jake Irvin has exceeded 4.5 hits. Now, granted, we are taking this at 5.5 hits, but 4.5 hits in 10 of his last 13 games, averaging 6 hits per game allowed over his last 13. If we do go ahead and look at that insight and you look at these games, honestly, he pretty much cashes all of them except for 2. You see the Braves one here and the Phillies one here, both last year. He doesn't cash those, so it's actually would be turning to 8 of his last 13 games. But still, pretty good numbers overall for Jake Irvin. He's been cashing this line of over 5.5 hits pretty consistently. And again, the Dodgers batting versus right-handed pitchers. Overall last year, the 4th best offense in terms of batting average against right-handed pitchers. Last 30 games, which does include this year's data thus far, 260 batting average. That's top 10 in Major League Baseball. So pretty good numbers across the board here. I think it's worth it. It is a plus money play for this line. So I don't know if I put a full unit. That's 4.5. Sorry, we were taking it at 5.5. It's plus 110 available to me on DraftKings. Again, available on multiple sports books for varying odds. I don't know if I'll throw a full unit on this one, but it's definitely worth a play, and it's plus money, so pretty good value. I'll have all the unit measurements down below in the pinned comment in terms of what I'm playing, how much I'm playing on each player prop. All right, guys, our third player prop in today's slate comes from the Blue Jays-Red Sox game, 6:45 p.m. first pitch. And fun fact, I'm actually going to be at this game. So if anybody's there, if you're going to go to the Red Sox game tonight, if you're at Fenway Park, you want to meet up, have a beer, say hello. I will be in Boston. I'll be at Fenway Park tonight at this Red Sox Blue Jays game. I am a season ticket holder. I like the 20-game season ticket. Listen, I don't want to brag too much. It's not like I have the full 81-game package, but I have, like a 20-game homestand package where, I go to a bunch of games every year. But this is the first one this year I'm going to, so very much looking forward to it. So yeah, if you are in Fenway Park tonight, if you are going to the Red Sox game, you want to meet up for a beer, just say hello and meet, absolutely down to do that. But Blue Jays, Red Sox, 6:45 p.m. first pitch. We're going Kevin Gausman over 2.5 earned runs, which we're getting for minus 120 over on DraftKings. He's pitched 2 games so far this year. He's cashed the over in 1 out of 2. Versus the Mets, the most recent start, he had 3 earned runs. Their first game versus Baltimore, he had just 2 earned runs allowed. So pretty decent start for Gausman. Again, he did cash the over once already. From a head-to-head perspective, though, 2 of his last 3 matchups with the Red Sox, he's cashed this over, averaging 2.67 earned runs per game over his last 3 matchups with Boston. And looking at last year, he had a 45% hit rate, so less than half the time he cashed it, but he did average 2.48 earned runs per game. Not terrible data here for Kevin Gausman, but it seems to be a pretty good spot. Now, Boston overall last year versus right-handed pitchers, 3rd best offense in Major League Baseball. Over the last 30 games, which does include this season, they are still top 5 versus right-handed pitchers. So really good hitting. Obviously, Boston, their bats were red hot coming into this Blue Jays series. They've now lost the first 2 games against Toronto, but that just makes me think even more. Boston's going to come out firing on all cylinders in this game, and the bats are going to be swinging in this one. By the way, guys, we are about to hit the 10-minute mark in today's video. So if you are still watching this point, please comment 10 down below. As always, guys, we appreciate those who watch through each and every single one of our videos here on the channel. We put a lot of hard work, win or lose. A lot of hard work goes into these, a lot of time and effort. So we appreciate those who just stuck around and watched through the entire video. We still got 4 more player props to go. Let's not waste any more time. Let's keep going at them. All right, guys, our 4th player prop in today's slate comes from the Phillies-Braves game, 7:15 p.m. first pitch. I actually have 2 player props coming from this Phillies-Braves game. We got Grant Holmes of the Atlanta Braves over 2.5 earned runs. It is a plus money play over on DraftKings and BetMGM, plus 105 on both of those sports books. Now, it's plus money for a reason. Overall, last year, it's a 29% hit rate on this over. Granted, a little bit of a smaller sample size. He only had 7 starts last year, but he did average 2.14 earned runs allowed per game last year, so not great data for us in that regard. So far this year, though, he's played 1 game, 1 start, and he did give up 4 earned runs against the Dodgers back on March 31st, so he has cashed the over already once this year. Looking down below at the matchup stats, the Phillies batting versus right-handed pitchers overall last year, they were top 10, and then look at the last 30 mark, which includes, again, this year's data thus far. They are still top 5 in Major League Baseball against right-handed pitchers. Very high OBP, 384 over the last 30 games. Green across the board, they are top 10 in all of these categories. Slugging percentage, WRC+, BABIP. Really good numbers here for the Phillies when facing off with right-handed pitchers. The fact that he's already cashed this line once this year, and you're going up against a Phillies team that's hitting the ball very well. They're also 7th, tied for 7th in Major League Baseball for runs per game. I think it's a pretty good matchup, but for plus money, I think it's definitely worth the shot here. So taking that one as the 4th player prop in today's slate. And our 5th player prop in today's slate, again, sticking with the Phillies and Braves game, 7:15 p.m. first pitch. We're going Taijuan Walker. Again, I know I'm horrible pronouncing names. Apologies for that. Taijuan Walker over 3.5 strikeouts, which we're getting for minus 113 odds over on FanDuel. It is, of course, available on multiple sports books for varying odds. The data a little bit better on this one than compared to the previous player prop. Now, similar to Grant Holmes, he has played once this year, and he cashed the over in that one game. He had 4 strikeouts against Colorado back on April 3rd. Overall last year, he did have a 60% hit rate on this over, 9 out of 15 games last year. He cashed the over, averaging 3.67 strikeouts per game last year. Not a pitcher who technically gets a lot of strikeouts. His strikeouts per 9 last year, 6.7. Not very good numbers, honestly. But you're going against a Braves team that everything looks to be pretty solid. You look at the strikeout percentage versus right-handed pitchers for Atlanta. Overall last year, they were bottom 10 in Major League Baseball, a nearly 24% strikeout rate. But if you narrow it down to the last 30 games, including this year, they are 29th, the 2nd worst team in Major League Baseball in terms of strikeout percentage versus right-handed pitchers, having a 28.3 strikeout percentage. Pretty high number there. Good for us. And if you do look at just this year's numbers, Atlanta, bottom 5 in Major League Baseball in terms of strikeouts per game. They're averaging 9.6 strikeouts per game as a team. We only need him to get 4 strikeouts here. You're facing off against one of the most struck out teams in baseball this year and last year. The Braves across the board having a rough start to the year in terms of hitting. I think it's worth the risk. It's minus 113, pretty decent value. He already cashed it once this year, 60% hit rate last year. I think it's definitely worth a spot. So that's our 5th player prop in today's slate. And for our final 2 player props in today's slate, guys, we're moving on to the Twins-Royals game, 7:40 p.m. first pitch. Both of our final 2 player props are coming from this Twins-Royals game. Our 6th player prop overall, first from this game, we got Seth Lugo of the Kansas City Royals under 5.5 hits allowed. Now, unlike most of the player props in today's video thus far, this one is a little bit juiced here, minus 150 over on DraftKings, minus 150 on BetMGM. But it's juiced for good reason. Obviously, the data is pretty solid across the board. He's already had 2 starts this year for the Royals. He's cashed the under in both starts here, under 5.5 hits allowed. He's averaging 4.5 hits allowed per game, 4 versus Cleveland, 5 versus Baltimore. So pretty good numbers here. Even looking at last year's data, a 54% hit rate last year, 19 out of 35 starts. He cashed this under, averaging 5.26 hits allowed per game last season. So some pretty good numbers across the board here for Seth Lugo. Now, from a head-to-head perspective, it should be noted that each of the last 2 times he faced off with Minnesota, he did cash the over, including the last time out on August 13th of last year. He had 9 hits allowed against the Twins. So a little concerning there, I will be honest. However, if you do go down below to the insights, Seth Lugo has failed to exceed 5.5 hits in 4 of his last 5 games at home, only averaging 4.4 hits allowed per game over his last 5 home games, so some pretty good numbers there. Their batting versus right-handed pitchers numbers, they rank about middle of the road, not good, not bad. Like they're a decent hitting team off of right-handed pitchers, so not like the best matchup here. But this year, we're looking at just 2025's numbers. They are bottom 5 in Major League Baseball in terms of hits per game as a team, averaging just over 6 hits per game. So you know, they're a decent hitting team. They're not terrible. This year, actually, they're not that great. Again, averaging just a little over 6 hits per game. The line's 5.5. I mean, as long as he holds them to 5, we have ourselves a cash. I think 5 is a pretty realistic number for him. It's a Minnesota team that's not hitting the best so far this season. So that's our 6th player prop in today's slate. And our 7th and final player prop in today's video, again, sticking with this Twins-Royals game, 7:40 p.m. first pitch. We got Carlos Correa of the Minnesota Twins under 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Pretty good value here, -105 over on DraftKings. Data's pretty strong as well. 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the under. It's a 70% hit rate, averaging 1.1 hits, runs, RBIs per game over his last 10. So far in 2025, a 73% hit rate. He's only played one more game than what I just showed you guys, but 8 out of 11 games this year, he's cashed the under, averaging 1 hit, run, RBI per game this season. Look at the head-to-head data here against Kansas City. He's cashed the under in 5 of his last 9 matchups with the Royals. It's a 56% hit rate, averaging 1.56 hits, runs, RBIs per game over their last 9 meetings with Kansas City. Now, they've already played 2 games so far this year. He's cashed the under in 1 of 2. Their first game on April 7th in this 3-game series, or is it 4? I don't know if it's 3 or 4 games, but the first game of this series against Kansas City, he went 0-for, and then yesterday he had 2 hits, no runs, no RBIs. Looking down below at the key matchup stats versus Seth Lugo, Carlos Correa last year actually hit pretty well off of right-handed pitchers, a .310 batting average, .310 overall. He hasn't been playing so great this year thus far. Again, you look at the numbers up above. He's only registered a hit in 4 of his 11 games. Actually, that's the head-to-head data. Excuse me. He's only recorded a hit in 5 of his 11 games, which isn't terrible. But you look at like 1 hit. Misread that data there. He's actually only recorded a hit in 4 of his 11 games thus far this year. He had 1 game here where he had an RBI, but no hits and no runs. So he hasn't really done a lot from a hitting perspective and from an honestly offensive perspective so far this season. So although last year's numbers are pretty good, this year's numbers do not look nearly as solid. Seth Lugo versus right-handed batters, pretty good numbers here. 211 batting average allowed, 312 ERA, 252 WOBA. So some pretty good numbers there. And then the actual head-to-head matchup here, Carlos Correa versus Seth Lugo. He's had 9 plate appearances since 2018, just a 125 batting average against Lugo, 1 hit, 1 RBI in their last 9 plate appearances. So pretty good numbers on Lugo's part here against Carlos Correa. Again, we're looking for the under here. I think it's a pretty good spot. Now, Correa does have a lot of success versus the fastball. That's the one we do have to be worried about a little bit, but versus the slider, also pretty solid here. Sinker, pretty solid. Curveball, pretty solid. Actually, Correa ranks pretty well versus all these numbers, honestly, until you get to the cutter. And the splitter is where you really start to see his WOBA decrease. These are all based off of last year's numbers, though. And again, he did hit the ball very well last year. So far this year, not so much. I don't know if I'll put a full unit on this one, but it is -105. Pretty good value. And Lugo is one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. And again, he's only gotten 1 hit off of him in their 9 plate appearances. So I do like the spot for the most part here for the under for Carlos Correa. So guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. We'll be back tomorrow with another MLB Player Prop video, but until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Wednesday. Again, if you're going to be at Red Sox Blue Jays tonight, give me a shout out. I will be there at the game. If you want to meet up, have a beer, say hello, I'd love to do that. But until tomorrow, hope you're all winners. Let's go ahead and make some money.